Once upon a time, deep in a vast jungle, there was a lion who ruled as the undisputed king. He was known far and wide for his strength, power, and fearsome roar that echoed through the trees. For years, he was unmatched by any creature, feared by all, and respected as the mightiest of them all. But as time passed, the lion grew older. His mane, once golden and full, was now tinged with grey. His body, once agile and powerful, had slowed down. But the lion, proud and stubborn, refused to accept that he was not as strong as before. In his heart, he believed he was still the same lion, capable of ruling the jungle. One bright afternoon, hunger gnawed at the lion, and he set out to hunt, determined to show that his strength was still intact. As he walked through the jungle, he spotted a young deer grazing by the riverbank. The deer was unaware of the lion's presence, and the lion crouched low, his eyes locked on his target. With a deep breath, the old lion prepared to strike. His muscles tensed, and he leapt forward, expecting the same power and grace he had always relied on. But this time something was different. His legs gave out mid-jump, and he landed awkwardly, tumbling to the ground in a heap. The deer, startled by the commotion, darted away into the safety of the forest. The lion, lying on the ground, was left panting, confused, and frustrated. How could this be? He had never failed like this before. Struggling to his feet, the lion tried to shake off the pain and embarrassment, but deep down, he knew something had changed. His strength, his speed, it wasn't the same. The jungle, once his kingdom, now felt much larger and harder to control. As he stood there, catching his breath, a small fox appeared from behind a nearby bush. The fox had been watching the scene unfold and couldn't resist approaching the fallen king. "Great king," the fox began, his voice sly but respectful. "You have ruled this jungle with unmatched strength, but time spares no one, not even the mightiest." The lion growled softly, his pride wounded more than his body. But the fox, bold and clever, continued. "Even the strongest among us must face the truth, that time changes all things. You were once the mightiest, but now, perhaps it is time to rest." The lion looked down, his heart heavy. The fox's words, though sharp, rang true. He had been the king for so long, he had forgotten that even kings must eventually step aside. His body was no longer what it used to be, and no amount of pride could change that. For the first time, the lion felt the weight of his age, not just in his body, but in his spirit. He was no longer the young, fierce hunter he had once been. But there was no shame in that. He had ruled for many years, and now it was time to embrace a new chapter. The lion lifted his head and gazed out over the jungle. It was still his home, even if he was no longer its ruler. With a quiet dignity, he turned and began walking back toward his den, no longer concerned with proving his strength. He had been a great king, and now he would be remembered for his wisdom as well. And so, the jungle continued to thrive, as it always had. New rulers would rise, and others would fall. But the story of the old lion who once ruled with strength and later accepted his limits would live on as a lesson to all. Even the strongest among us must face the truth of time. And in doing so, we find a new kind of strength, a strength that comes from within.